You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes the candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory Podcast. Nathan.
This is Colin.
We're back again for another exciting weekend of movies and news and other interesting topics. Thanks for joining us. If you can see us on YouTube or anywhere.
I'm recording it locally, so I might throw it up afterwards.
Okay. Enjoy our gray screen. No, but here we are again. Just the two of us. No third party.
Just like the Smiths.
The Smiths.
Will and Jaden.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, wait, that's just the two of us song. Has that existed before they did it? Or I can't even remember. Oh, well.
We'll make castles in the sky, just the two of us, you and I. Yeah, I think it was. We're thinking about the same song. Yeah, I believe that was a redo. Yeah, it's been an interesting week for death. Former First Lady Barbara Bush died. I had her funeral today. Harry Dean Anderson, or no, what was his name? Harry Anderson?
Yeah, Harry Anderson.
From Night Court died. And I found out something weird. Like, they don't have any copies of that show left. Or a bunch of them were...
Really? Or was that just a joke on the Red Letter Media thing? Or is that true?
I haven't watched that one yet. Do they talk about that on there?
Oh,
no, I heard that that's like they never...
That's for real?
Yeah, and they... I don't know. It could be something someone heard and passing.
Because that came a plot point on the recent episode. Because they had previously in the lexicon of half in the bag. What the fuck's his name? Mr. Plinkett always wants to get his VCR fixed so he can watch his Night Court tapes.
Oh,
so that became a plot point, is that this Night Court tape is now worth a lot of money because they don't have any of the old episodes. That's crazy.
Let me see because I read that in a tweet, so let me see if somebody picked it up there.
Oh, okay.
And just is a fucking internet fraud thing. That's going to take me a while to find this. So talk amongst yourselves. Let me make sure this is recording.
Huh?
Okay, it is recording. Okay, my thing was flashing at me. Oh, it's just telling me. Okay, yeah.
Who else died?
Well, the person I wanted to talk about was Art Bell. He died this week. Yeah, I can't find anything about it. It's probably some internet bullshit thing. I'm certainly not going to sit here and search the internet. But I'll have to watch that. I didn't know they even talked about that. I'm kind of like 15 shows behind on them.
Oh, okay.
So because I watch that infrequently.
Yeah.
Well,
you've missed. They've had some best of the worst that have been pretty good, and then, like I said, that Ready Player One episode is really good on Half in the Bag.
Last one I watched was when they talked about Annihilation, and me and Grayson watched that together. So that's the last one of those I saw. Yeah, it looks like that may be partially true, but I can't really source it. I don't think they were all lost, but a bunch of them were. That's one of those shows that it's like production cycle changed a lot. And they were shooting it one way that was really expensive at first, and then they went a real cheap way. And but that's all I can find. Anyway, but the I don't know, founder, creator of Coast to Coast AM, Art Bell, died. And here we get thrown off YouTube because I'm gonna. This was always the starting music for Midnight Run, and they had that guy, the announcer with the crazy deep voice, talking about what was it, from the Kingdom of Nye, Nye County, Nevada. great. My new soundboard has a short in it. Lovely. But yeah, that was the intro music for the famous Coast to Coast AM. Started by Art Bell and I don't know, late 80s, early 90s. I don't know. Did you listen to a lot of this?
No, it was kind of like vaguely when I was a kid on like really long road trips where we'd be driving till like the AM or something like that.
Yeah.
That's when I'd get to hear
Okay.
Art Bell.
That's where me and Dad listened to a lot of it. Because as soon as I turned 16, I got dragooned into a lot of driving duty.
Yeah.
Because we were driving, it was like 10 hours in some cases, and sometimes we have to take multiple vehicles. I never understood why. But yeah, that's where I first got exposed to Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, and that was in the early 90s. How old was I when I could drive? It was 1991. So yeah, it was probably, and then I just started listening to it like all the time. And then I all my jobs, most of my jobs until very recently were all overnight shift jobs. So, and there was a lot of times when I could listen to, you get those headphones that have the radio receiver in them. You could get a lot of, when you're doing a 12-hour shift, you can listen to a lot of AM talk radio. This was one of my big ones. This is one of my favorites, and Art Bell, as an interviewer and a creator, was always one of my big go-to radio personality guys because he was doing a really weird show, and it was fun. Now I sort of fell off the wagon in about 2003, which is kind of when Coast to Coast under Art Bell's sort of fell apart because he's retired 4 times from radio under weird circumstances. But there's a lot of as I was preparing for this episode, I had just pages of stuff I didn't know, and I had certain notes because the lore of Coast to Coast AM, and I'm just going to talk about the Art Bell years because that's what I know the best. I don't really know the George Murray stuff very well. I'm sure it's fine. I had the season pass years ago where I could listen to it anytime online, but some of it was Coast to Coast was an interesting combination of things because when it started in California, it was West Coast AM, and it was all conspiracy theories, gun control, and anti-government talk. That was the first. Art Bell was the guy running it then, and then it became Coast to Coast, and they started talking more about UFOs and the paranormal, and it sort of graduated. It evolved from what it was to what it became, just taking in more subject matter, and a lot of shows and a lot of things that changed in that kind of broadcasting and even that kind of storytelling after Oklahoma City, when people were like, oh, if you tell these weird people and enrage them enough with weird ideas, they might go blow up buildings. We might want to throttle back on some of the I don't know, because you don't really remember the early to mid 90s. There's a lot of crazed anti-government talk everywhere.
Oh yeah,
you had right-wing AM political people.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like Ruby Ridge and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, but you had just I'm talking more that did happen then, but I'm talking more about there were radio shows on the AM dial you could tune into where it's like the black helicopters are coming over the horizon, get ready. The government, they're doing it now, and then Clinton did all that gun bans, and that just threw rocket fuel on that fire. And because I used to hang around with guys that did ham radio and shit, and that's all that was like those lights in the skies, it's helicopters, those look like Blackhawks, or there was people constantly out there talking about this stuff. I mean, they still are, but it reached kind of a fever pitch in the early to mid 90s, and this show is kind of it always managed to be fun when it was Coast to Coast. I haven't heard a lot of the political, because it was purely like a Rush Limbaugh type show when it started, and then when they graduated beyond conspiracy theories and gun control into all this other stuff, then it became kind of the fun show. It's you can listen to it.
Story time.
Yeah, and Art Bell's a very good interviewer, and he never questioned the veracity of what his guests were saying. He would push back a little bit, like, "Whoa, wait a minute, you got to explain that," and then they would explain it with more nonsense. And okay, so it was kind of it was fun, but what he was doing was great. He was good at interviewing people. Not everything on the show was to my taste. I don't get into a lot of that woo-woo aliens and shit like that and spirits. But it did introduce me to a lot of the conspiracy culture, and it did make me want to go out and learn more and find out that it's all nuts too. But it was something to do. And the thing about Coast to Coast that made it work was because these are thoughts you have at 2 a.m. And this guy's just sitting here talking about, because things like aliens and government conspiracies always seem more likely around midnight than they do at noon when you're just watching the news. It's like, oh, everything's great. But then when the sun goes down, you don't know what's out there anymore.
Yeah. It's like
And
that and ghost shit too.
Yeah, it all seems
nobody
awesome.
does those ghost shows and like, hey, we walked around it during during the morning, like nothing happened.
Yeah, no one's walking around with a digital recorder like, it's noon, come and get me, spirit, I'll fuck you up. It's like, yeah, this is ridiculous. But when you do it and you can't see anything, then it's frightening. And this was kind of the same vein. And you had a great ghost or a great host who just kind of went along with everything. I mean, nothing was too ridiculous. And the shows were caller driven, which for shows like this, with some of the callers you have, just the raw talent it takes to make schizophrenic ramblings of a nutcase in some trailer parks. It's like, go ahead, tell me your story. And then what happened? And it's like, there's only a few people that could do that. Other people would be like, get off the fucking phone. What are you doing here?
It's kind of a weird combination of people you'd find on there. Like, yeah, either it's somebody with a mental health issue, someone just fucking around, or some trucker like expounding his sci-fi novel, spitballing his sci-fi novel, but with him as the lead actor.
Right. Yeah. I want to run this by you, Art. Okay. And but all handled very well. I mean, for as interesting as that pool of people can be to talk to, it can get grating in a hurry. Because like I've said, crazy people always have a message they want to share with you. You're seldom ever more complete for hearing the message, but they do want to share it. And this guy made it fun. And I've read some obituaries where like the New York Times kind of opined that he was a great entertainer and he never claimed to be anything but an entertainer, but he laid the groundwork for Alex Jones. And they kind of throw this thing on him like, yeah, he created a lot of bad things. And it's like, well, no, I don't agree with that. I think conspiracy theories are fun, but I agree with the New York Times. It's not a good basis for government, which is kind of where we're at now. But this was happening, the apex of Coast to Coast, when they had like 15 million listeners overnight, which is insane numbers for overnight radio. It was in the same era that when the X-Files was huge. It was all kind of tied in, and it was fun in a way it's not now. But you know, again, we're trying to judge Art Bell by the standards of now, when really it was sort of at its apex 15 years ago. And again, they weren't, presidential candidates weren't being endorsed by the main conspiracists, because this guy's pretty much been off the radar for years. So they say like Alex Jones took his mantle, but I don't agree, because there's nothing fun about Alex Jones.
Yeah, would you say more Joe Rogan does a better job of that?
Yeah, Joe Rogan does do a better job of that, because he brings on a multitude of people with differing opinions and lets people expound their idea. It's not quite as loopy, but I don't like.
Well, you see the person there, whereas like in the Coast to Coast,
yeah, it was just voices.
Yeah.
And really, bad audio quality too. I've lifted some things for us to listen to, and I was like, God, this is terrible. But it's also 90s technology, so and AM radio technology on top of that. But yeah, I didn't care for a lot of the compare and contrast between Alex Jones and Art Bell because they cover the same subject matter, but they do it with very different intent.
Art Bell was intentionally being entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, this Alex Jones is fun to watch because it's the Alex Jones show. The Alex Jones circus is going to happen. But it's repetitive. It's not, the Art Bell was always different. It's like this week Sasquatch, next week government conspiracies, or the next night, or there was
what was that show that Leonard Nimoy did the voiceover for? That was like
In Search Of.
Yeah.
That was pseudoscience from the 70s. Scientists say it might be rocks. We think it's Bigfoot. Wait a minute. Those opinions are not on level, but this is really entertaining.
Solid
TV.
evidence says no, but our imagination says yes.
Yeah. The thing that makes it interesting, it's like when the lady called into Art Bell and she said, I'm possessed by aliens. And he's like, go ahead. And she's like, well, and she was talking and there was a guest caller on too, and they were both kind of batting these alien experiences back and forth. And then this woman breaks into, well, I've had mental health issues in the past, but this isn't that. And I was listening to it because I was listening to many hours of stuff to kind of talk about what I was going to say. And it's like, no, your problem is you're crazy, but being possessed by alien entities from Dimension X is exciting and fun. Mental illness is just sad and depressing. So yeah, go have fun because it's just, otherwise it just sucks. So you want to say you're possessed by aliens? Cool. Would lithium make that go away? Probably, but that wouldn't be as exciting. And there was a lot of stuff like that. A lot of pseudoscience accepted, just with faint criticism or total belief.
You need to comb through the archives for like the beginnings of flat earthers and and anti-vaxxers.
I was looking for some specific coast to coast stuff that had that from the Art Bell era. I couldn't, but I don't, it's thousands of hours. I have 20 hours to prepare. So couldn't find that. Wanted to make that connection. They did stuff like that did show up in the later shows, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but the meat of Coast to Coast was great for its time. And there was a time that it came and a time that it's kind of went. And
it was kind of like, campfire stories almost.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were specific shows that were kind of, cause there was, they had like Ghost to Ghost, which was like we're just calling in to talk about the spirits and the supernatural. They had Dreamland, which was all about UFOs. That was like a sideshow that him and Whitley Strieber would work on. And then there was, they had different call-in topics. And then, of course, my favorite is because we're doing 3 to 5 hours of this radio show with people talking about, whatever, pyramids or whatever. And then wild card line calling in. It's like not topic specific. Just you call in, talk about anything. And that was always good. They had all kinds of call-in lines. Like let's play some drops here. Here's a line they had for people to call in.
Antichrist line, you're on the air. Hello.
Art.
Antichrist line.
You called. You asked me to call. What do you need?
Do you claim to be the Antichrist?
Yeah.
Oh, then there's many questions that I have for you. First of all, how do you know that you are the Antichrist?
How dare you?
I dare.
Your preconceived notions of what the Antichrist is.
I don't dare.
Have a valuable opportunity to talk.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let this go on for this is like 2 hours of that if you're interested. But yeah, we have Antichrist can call in. Yeah, go ahead. That was here's one of his most famous calls. This is the Area 51 call. There's a little history about this I'll get into.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. So give us something quick.
Okay. Okay. What we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program.
Yeah, that's
made
kind of an
contact with.
example of what goes on.
They are not what
Some
they
of the
claim
these are the
to
most
be.
famous ones, but
They have
this was
infiltrated.
this is an example of what happens on art. You know, what could happen on any time on the Coast to Coast show in the 90s was they had people calling in like that. And that was later somebody claimed to be an actor and they scripted that all out in advance.
Yeah.
Which for a random caller, that guy did sound like pretty well put together. And even though he was acting panicked, he was being pretty clear. So I don't know. Even if it was fun because this is all entertainment. You don't have to like dig down into the science of this. We're just having a good time. But yeah, so the Antichrist could call in. You had an Area 51 line. You had wild card line, which was anything. And then you had some of the
Wild card, go ahead, line one.
yep.
I'm riding this bull. All right. Is it possessed by the devil? No.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
So that was an example of anything could happen on the Art Bell show, or it was planned, or whatever you want to believe, because you're listening for this is just pure entertainment. This isn't valuable information you're taking home and sharing with your family.
Yeah, the one I remember, it was like some guy talking about the Bermuda Triangle was actually like some sort of crossing over into another dimension or whatever.
Okay.
Where aliens are and shit like that. And this guy was basically claiming to be like the hero of the story. He's like, I've been there, and like it's all good there. It sucks here.
I made contact with the aliens, and they chose me as their messenger. So,
Yeah.
a lot of shit. And what are you, an unemployed pearl diver? This is amazing. Those questions weren't asked that way.
I'm a professional dog walker, Art.
Yeah. Yep, that's and then he had stuff like this. This is one I remember. I'm just going to play a little bit of this.
Without any more delay, let's go talk with Mr. Bielik in Phoenix. And good morning, Alfred Bielik.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
This was the Philadelphia
thank you very much.
experiment episode. And this is
I
kind of
almost don't know
typical
where to
of an
start.
Art
I
Bell
guess the
show.
best thing to do is first find out about you, whatever we can. What is your background, Alfred?
Well, my background as Al Bielik is that I was an electronic engineer. It's for 30 years, from 1958 to 88, but that had no bearing whatever on the Philadelphia experiment and my history with that. The history for the Philadelphia experiment involving not only the USS Eldridge, but some earlier ships and experimentation goes back a long ways. Actually goes back to 1931, when the first experimental considerations of the possibility of making an object invisible were engaged by Dr. Nikola Tesla and Dr. John Hutchinson of the University of Chicago, and a staff physicist by the name of Dr. Emil Kurtenau, all of whom were at that time at the University.
Now that's just there's 7 hours of that, by the way. If anyone's interested, it's like a 4-parter. That was actually an interesting show, but the reason I chose that clip is that's kind of indicative of the less seemingly crazy people he had on who basically established these bizarre bona fides by just name dropping constantly. There's like an hour of name dropping like that. I listened to the whole thing just for shits and giggles, but there was like an hour of name dropping like that about all these people, and then talking about what he did, and then talking about the Philadelphia experiment, and then talking about, I think this was the guy who said he was 35. Which in this interview was done in the early 2000s, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, you'd be a lot older. He's like, well, no, I traveled through time from then to now. and because of the Philadelphia experiment, it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. But it starts out as a guy that sounds like an engineer giving a pretty dry recitation of what his career was. And then we jump into time travel and the Philadelphia experiment and what that really was, and aliens and the devil and everything else. But that was very typical of the 3-hour trip you were going to take on coast to 3 to 5 hour trip you were going to take on coast to coast that night. You're going to have people like that talking about stuff like that. That was the stuff I found most interesting. Not that I believed any of it, but again, cool story. It's like, this is great. It's better to be possessed by aliens than just to be crazy. So, but yeah, that was, that's kind of a more of the typical Art Bell coast to coast that I would listen to. And there were some shows I just listened to something else because again, crystals and ancient aliens and all that woo-woo shit, not that interested in that. So I wasn't like a dedicated listener where I listened to every show front to back all the way through. But these were the ones that were the most interesting, the way it was handled. And Art Bell had a few famous hecklers. One of them was JC, who would just call the show and was eventually just given his own line to call in and heckle Art Bell. So here's we'll play one of that, and that'll be the last one.
Don't get smart with me. You and your UFO nonsense, you're crazy.
I wish Bigfoot were my dad.
Oh, you know what? Bigfoot is of the devil, if he is anything.
Here we go.
It is demonic doings. That
Demonic doings.
What's that?
From the devil, right?
As you are, as that caller that called the other night, you are Satan's mouthpiece.
No, I'm virtually
Christian, bit of Christian American.
Virtually the Antichrist.
I would say so. You're not actually the beast, but you're working for him.
I'm trying to help you here, sir.
You're trying to help me. Well, why don't you don't help me, and why don't you just get off the air and make way for good people like G. Gordon Liddy, Ollie Norris, and Rush Limbaugh?
Yes, good people.
You're not even
You're all on the air.
Well, we could hear a repeat. You're nowhere near the league or the caliber of a man we need on the air.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that.
You are spreading disinformation and defrauding the American public with your constant rhetoric about the government, your Area 51, UFOs. You're anti-Christian. You are anti-American, and I think you should just stop. I'm tired of hearing you every night.
Well, just one question.
What?
Why do you listen?
I have to answer to keep you in check and counterbalance the lies you put out.
You are compelled to listen, aren't you?
Oh, no. Don't start with it. You speak in the devil's tongue, and you think it's a joke, but it's real.
Compelled.
You're here being channeled by demons.
You will listen. You will listen.
Yes. Will you just cut it out and talk normal?
You will listen to me.
This is what I'm talking
Every chance you get.
Every big joke.
You will keep your radio. You will turn the volume up even higher.
It's a big joke, what you're tearing down the foundations of our nation.
The entire foundation.
Very funny.
Around
Very
our
funny.
ears.
Yeah, so that's Art Bell heckler, which again, a little coherent maybe, and no one cursed the whole time, that's sort of unusual. But hey, it was fun to listen to. I don't know that there's probably been other people that called in and said things. I don't know what kind of delay they were on, but they've had some pretty weird callers, of course, as you would expect. But this guy got his own line to call in and just rant and rave at Art Bell, and it was. The conversation always had that fun tone to it where one guy was being serious and the other guy was like, yeah, I control your mind. That's why you're listening to the show that you say you hate so much. But that's coast to coast. And then we have Art Bell, the man, which, like I said, in 1997, 1998, they had 15 million overnight listeners. That's the biggest it was ever at. Now I think currently it's like 2.5 million, but it's on more stations, weirdly enough. I don't understand that. But see Art Bell, his first retirement, and I'm just going over this quickly. There's a lot of back and forth information about what this is and why it happened. But initially in 2000, he said he was done because of back problems, because he's sitting in a chair for 9-10 hours a day doing a radio show, which is, that can be a problem. And then he became like a weekend host where he would do the show on the weekends and then the other guys would do it the other 5 days of the week. They had different guest hosts and different controversies with them. And then in 2002, he came back because the show was just dying. The ratings were were not where they wanted them to be. So he came back, and then his wife died in 2006. 6 months later, he remarried another woman. And then in 2007, announced his second retirement. And because he wanted to spend more time with his new wife and their baby. And then something awful happened with one of his older children. And I don't know exactly what it is because there was a bunch of lawsuits filed because he didn't want it discussed. And other right-wing conspiracy radio people just wanted to discuss it because Art Bell was kind of loved and hated in that whole community. Because he did talk about conspiracy theories and kind of right-wing stuff, but he also brought UFOs and Bigfoot into it, and they were like, no, you can't do that. That makes you look stupid. Like, that's what makes you look stupid. Okay. So something terrible happened in his life, and that was I believe that was the second retirement. It's kind of ran together. And then in 2010, he just completely left the show. He didn't do weekends or anything at all. And there was a lot of controversy, a lot of back and forth with people, with him and George Norrie, and then in 2013, Dark Matter appeared on Sirius XM, which got me back into Art Bell because I had Sirius XM, and I was working nights and I could listen to it, in the car. That lasted about 6 months, and he quit that. Just because he didn't like the format, the distribution, and everything. He wasn't. Art Bell's a very caller-driven host, and when you're on Sirius XM, that narrows your audience even more. It's mostly truck drivers and stuff, and it got to be the same callers all the time because those were the people listening, or people from their cars on cell phones where the calls would cut off, because of that. Talking on a car on your cell phone, you're always going to lose a signal every so often. So Dark Matter lasted about 6 weeks, and then it was over. And then 2 years later, Midnight in the Desert, which was a streamed and broadcast show. Like you could stream it or listen to it on the radio. It was very limited. And that ended because people came to his house and were shooting guns off and then continued to trespass. And then supposedly somebody called him and threatened him and his family if he didn't stop doing his show. So in 2015, for 6 months, he did Midnight in the Desert and then quit and said that was it. And he was done. And then he died, of course, April 13th. So that was it. And it was kind of he also did the show from the Philippines for a while because this woman he married was from the Philippines and she couldn't get into the country for some reason. There was all, it's listening to Art Bell and Coast to Coast almost became like one of these live action dramas where we have the weird show and then we've got weird things going on in real life and you don't know what the hell's true. How much of it's entertainment.
It's wrestling.
Yeah, it was like pro wrestling with a radio host. So I guess people were shooting.
Is this a work or shoot?
Yeah. I guess people were. Some of the stuff, like he was recording a show, and who's that Japanese guy? The scientist. Michio Kaku. He was in the studio when all the security stuff came on. And there were people like looking in the windows and stuff, and they did stop the show, and he called the cops. And so there was something going on. And nobody knows why or what it was or anything. I mean, essentially, when you're doing a show that long and you're dealing with these kind of topics, you're gonna eventually encounter strange people, or they're going to come into your life in a way maybe you're not comfortable with. So, but yeah, that's Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM, one of my favorite radio guys. A show I would not always listen to, but consistently listen to. Not, again, not all the topics to my liking, but a well done show. I mean, when just those examples I played, can you imagine what a zoo that is? Trying to coordinate that every night. Never caught flat-footed by anything anyone said. I mean, any claims. I've just listened to hours of this stuff and just the Bigfoot talk, and he's like, "Oh, really?" Bigfoot came off a UFO and said that the economy is going to collapse in 2006. So what did you think about when he told you that? It's never like, come on. Get the fuck out of
Fuck
here.
you. Next caller.
Yeah, that never. Oh, these were guests. Most of the guests were call-in guests too. Because, by the way, he basically did this. He was basically a podcaster without podcasting equipment. Had radio equipment, but essentially did the show from his home, constantly. Never was willing to move or do anything. Everything after it got big enough was in Pahrump, Nevada, where he lived. Had a big broadcasting compound and everything. They did the show there, and I don't know if he even had producers that worked with him in studio. I'm not sure how it worked, but yeah, that was one of his.
If you have call-in stuff, you have producers, but
yeah, he probably did have people there, but because I know Midnight in the Desert was the first time he did it with call screeners. Like before, there were never call screeners.
Oh, okay.
They were just like, we have these different lines: east of the Rockies, west of the Rockies, wild card.
Oh, is that one of those like it's on so late we don't even care if they swear or anything like that?
I don't know about that. I don't recall ever hearing that. But there could have been a delay. It could have been recorded hours in advance and then put out, because there were huge bumps of advertisement in there. There was a lot of advertisement on those shows. So,
what was being advertised?
The usual stuff. Old age stuff.
Magic horn boner pills.
I don't know if they had hard-on pills. But it was, it was a typical radio stuff that was advertised again. Like, are you getting the best life insurance? There was a lot of stuff. It's not Alex Jones where it's like,
come on down to whatever car dealership.
Yeah, it was stuff like that. It wasn't like the Alex Jones, like, buy my survival pills or whatever the fuck he's. And it's like his own brand of stuff. And, John Oliver does a rundown on some of Alex Jones marketing. It's pretty funny. But, yeah, that was Art Bell. And like I said, the show continues, but I don't know much about what it is now. I've heard it's more in line with like it's the same topics, but it's kind of conservative, and there's a little more political stuff in it. Where Art Bell started off as a conservative radio guy who would just talk to militia people and like, what do you think the government's doing? And then he's graduated to this and became not apolitical, but definitely whatever his views weren't the main feature of the show when it came to stuff like that. Because it was mostly just paranormal and what would you call it? Pseudoscience type stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. The fun stuff.
Imagination.
It's he did get castigated by a lot of people that just like call bullshit on everything. Because he won like some ignominious award. What's it called? The Snuffed Flame, or it was about spreading disinformation and lies and pseudoscience, and like they were trying to insult him or goad him with that. It's like the show is entertainment. And he said it was entertainment. Many times he said, this is just pure entertainment. He's never like stood out and said, yes, the aliens are coming. The Illuminati's coming to steal your retirement. Or he never really came out and said stuff like that. He just listened to people. And whatever his beliefs were kind of his beliefs. But they weren't a centerpiece of the show. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and he'll be missed. I mean, I was always wondering if there was going to be a comeback. And I did listen. I listened to a little bit of Midnight in the Desert, not much, because the guests they got were like, because coast to coast, they were getting all the, the mainstream crazies that they could get. People you would have heard about, or people that were propagating like 9/11 conspiracy people. They had like every 9/11 conspiracy person you could imagine on coast to coast towards the end of it, or towards the end of his time. But Midnight in the Desert was like, yeah, we're going to the crystal waving convention. We're just going to pull people out. And they're like, yeah, talk to us about your spiritual beliefs. I think the quality of guests degraded, because if you went on Art Bell's show, you couldn't go on George Norrie's Coast to Coast anymore. There was kind of a thing like that. Like, well, if you go do Art Bell, we're done with you, kind of the whole Howard Stern, Opie and Anthony thing, where It's like, well, if you're a guest on his show, I don't know how much that went on, but supposedly it did. This was actually, there was a thing with him and George Norrie and all his attempted reboots where the people that owned Coast to Coast felt that that he was going to take something away from their listeners. So whatever, that's all business. And Art Bell, not a greedy guy. He made millions of dollars, but he didn't make hundreds of millions of dollars. I think it was more important for him to stay at home and do stuff from his compound than it was for him to sign big contracts. And so he seemed like a guy who definitely did exactly what he wanted to. I mean, he ran a pirate radio station on an Air Force base when he was in Vietnam, so he loved broadcasting. And he had a ham radio license when he was 12 or something. So this guy was always into shooting his voice out and talking to people. That was his thing. So, and smoked 6 packs of cigarettes a day too, which is what ultimately killed him.
Oh.
Well, when you sit around and talk, it's not hard to smoke 6 packs of cigarettes. I know that sounds like 6 packs. That's crazy. It's like, nah, it's not hard to do when you're talking 10 hours a day. I don't know what shape his equipment was in after years of, you know, I don't know what those mics must have been pretty jammed up, but
why is this thing caked with tar?
hey, you got to be passionate about something. So, but yep, he'll be missed. One of the greats, for just for who he was. Said it wasn't Emmy quality, you know, reporting on serious events or anything, but it was wildly entertaining and it was different. Nobody's done anything like that before or since. There's lots of people who try, but there's only one guy that could, you know, Antichrist line.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah, people kind of backed off the alien stuff. Now it's just people have really doubled down on the ghost shit.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there seems to be like it's divided up now because you've got George Norrie, he does UFOs and the ghost stuff, and then Alex Jones.
Well, I just mean like in general, like on Sci-Fi Channel has like, you know, fucking 3 ghost catching or ghost chasing programs, and TLC, like everybody's. If you have a network that does reality programming, you have like a ghost chasing program,
right?
I think there's even a couple of Bigfoot hunting shows.
Yeah, I remember the Bigfoot hunting show where they actually upped the budget and they got a helicopter to find Bigfoot. And the one guy from Newsweek was saying, yeah, the Bigfoot guys said they had the wrong helicopter. That's why they didn't find Bigfoot. When the answer is obviously there's no such thing as Bigfoot. But no, it's the helicopter was the wrong one. So. Yeah, and those ghost catching shows, I mean, what does it cost to get 5 guys and a bunch of GoPros together and sell millions of dollars of advertising you're selling? It's like, oh, this sells itself. You don't even have to have special effects. As a matter of fact, if you did, you'd be considered fake, which is weird, considering what they're doing is complete nonsense. Which would be like me suddenly turning around like, it farted behind me. It said my name.
I remember there was one, and I almost like they must have like did this intentionally, but then like to then deny it, like because they're on some ship, and they had a camera pointed at a bed, and the bed started to like unmake itself.
Okay.
And then they looked at it, and like they kind of did a timeline of like who was actually around the camera then or whatever. It was like, oh, somebody just like stopped the camera and basically did stop motion animation with their camera.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And then they immediately like, oh, like somebody fucked with the camera. This isn't a real ghost. Which kind of seems like, is that how you get legitimacy? Yeah. Like, is that? It's like the only way you show that is like you give them some legitimacy. It's like, oh, okay, they are concerning about what the information they get. They don't just take any
discriminating fraudsters.
Yeah,
we won't do the things that like like a video camera expert could dissect in 5 minutes. We're gonna call bullshit on that first. It would have really been an interesting turn if they had a witch hunt for like, okay, who did this, and then threw them off the boat because you're discrediting the reality of what we're doing. But yeah, there's going to be about 4,000 tribute podcasts to Art Bell this weekend. Most of them will be better than this, so give them a listen. And check out the Art Bell. And there's a lot of stuff on YouTube. I don't know who owns the rights to it, but it's great stuff.
It's YouTube, so it doesn't matter.
But it's it's entertaining for sure. I was very entertained. I don't consume things like that anymore.
No,
I don't really listen to stuff. Art Bell was the reason I listened to.
I haven't even seen the last 2 seasons of the X-Files except for that opening episode.
Yeah, I haven't watched the second season yet. I have it all on my DVR, but just haven't got around to it yet.
I hear it's better than the second season, but it should have ended at the second to last episode.
Okay.
Because they actually had somebody else write that episode, and it was like a good, push in the right direction for like concluding characters and stuff like that, character arc and stuff like that. Because Gillian Anderson's gonna leave the show.
Yeah.
And then, what's his name? Chris. What is it?
Chris Carter.
Chris Carter wrote the last episode, and apparently it's terrible. So.
Oh.
Like to the point Gillian Anderson just apologized for the episode on Twitter.
Oh my God! Really? Whoops.
Well, she's not coming back. What does she care?
Yeah, she just shot across the bow. She's leaving. Drop the mic and run out of the room. She going back to England to be with her husband?
I don't know. Probably. She has like fucking 8 shows on like Netflix that are like British detective shows and stuff.
Yeah, she does a lot of BBC stuff.
Brideshead revisited.
Yeah. Wasn't she from there, or she was born here but lived there for a long time?
Yeah,
or
something like that. Yeah. Or by way of Canada or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Whatever the pipeline of illegals into this country. The old UK Canada shuffle.
Apparently Vern Troyer died today.
Mini-Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. He's a Michigan guy.
The other big one was Arlie Ermy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the drill instructor guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the ultimate character actor. He took a character and made it a career. Started off as a consultant and became the guy. And Stanley Kubrick was so horrified by him, he let his second unit guy direct all the Arlie Ermy scenes. And that's weird because Stanley Kubrick, not known as an improvisational director, but when it came to Arlie Ermy, it's just let him do his thing. Not that he was horrified by Arlie Ermy as a person, but just that character and the way he talked, Kubrick was like, oh, fuck. Okay, this seems legit, but it's very uncomfortable. So, yeah, and he made that his career.
He did other things. I mean,
yeah, he did, but he was always mainly known as that guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you get. Like that mail call show is basically it's like, hey, be your character in Full Metal Jacket, but do these questions and answers from the mail, and then go shoot some guns.
Yeah, just be. What was that guy's name? Gunnery Sergeant Hartman.
Yeah.
And he also played that role in an earlier film about Vietnam. Or not that particular role, but that kind of character. And then what else was he really effective in?
I remember him in 7. Wasn't he like the chief of police or something in the...
But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, he was a singular nut job in that too.
There's a lot of like bit parts he did that are like pretty effective. Like I can't recall them, but like when you see the scene, it's like, holy fuck, I didn't know he could do anything else other than yell at people.
Yeah.
Because he has that kind of gravelly voice, and when he goes like wide-eyed and he tells you some like serious, like truthful shit, it's like, oh, this is terrifying.
Yeah, he's played some other roles.
And he does a lot of comedy too.
Yeah,
Kind of later in his career, he did a lot of comedy.
yeah, he seemed like a laid back guy. Unless people called him names, and he punched them in restaurants. But you get tired of people fucking with you after a while too. But yeah, I was kind of surprised to hear that died of pneumonia.
Yeah.
From Emporia, Kansas. I don't know why I remember that. Oh, it just gets weird because he's an actor from Kansas. But he was an actor who was actually, actually did some of the things he talked, because he was in the Marines and he did get.
He was a drill instructor in the Marines.
Yeah. Yeah, he knew what he was
And
doing.
I believe he was a gunnery sergeant. I think he left as a gunnery sergeant. I'm not sure.
He got wounded or something. There was some kind of injury that happened. I don't know if it was a result of combat or what, but yeah, I know I don't know much about the guy. I just know he's a face you see. It's like, I know that guy. He's made a big career off of, like I said, the ultimate character actor. Who else died this week? That's probably it.
That's all I can remember right now. There was some other ones thrown in. It was like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Finished Lost in Space.
Yeah, I'm like episode 3 on that. What do you think?
It's good.
Is it?
It's nice to see smart people go to space and not just die from being idiots.
Yeah. Just
or
let's
at least
open up the egg and inject this shit and see what...
No, I just want to see that 4 stoners go to space and fucking freebase an alien egg. Why'd we all die?
Alien freebase. Hey, what would happen if we reanimated this head? Nothing bad. So, are we in a room with any gas masks on, or nah? Just fucking light it up and see what happens. We observing any quarantine that we even understand for earthbound diseases? No. Let's put a paper mask on, some rubber gloves, reanimate the head. My favorite scene.
We have time. There's no, it's hurry up.
That was my ultimate what the fuck moment from Prometheus. It's like, let's run electricity into the head. Yeah, what the fuck could go wrong based on everything else that's happened so far? A bunch of idiots. David, why not? I'm a rational robot being. Yeah, we should do this. Nothing could go wrong.
But it's a good family show because everybody is required to be a survival expert to some extent.
Okay.
I didn't like understand this till like later on in the season, but like their oldest daughter, the Judy, is an actual doctor.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like not like she is their medical, like I don't like know she didn't go like graduate college and be a doctor, but she is their medical professional. Like she was trained to do like more than first aid, but she's basically a medical doctor for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, for the purpose of the show, yes.
And then like all the kids had their moments where they aren't just being victimized or something like that. No, they get to solve problems too. So I see like, hey, this actually would be a good family show.
Yeah. Yeah, the mother and the husband have an interesting relationship.
Yeah.
But I'm only episode 3, so.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I haven't seen it all.
Tell you the rest of it. So.
Did they ever explain why one of the daughters is a different race from the others? Or?
Vaguely. All she says, because she said at some point she says like that's my dad, and like, who's the guy? Is the engineer? The was with Dr. Smith when they went down there. I can't remember his name. It's like something West or something like that. I think it's West. And he looks at her strange, and he's like, your dad? And then she says, he came into the picture after I was born or whatever. So.
Oh, okay.
So.
Just a question I had. It's like, are they going to answer this? I do like the robot thing.
Yeah.
Like that's an interesting twist.
And they do more with that, so.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. That's yeah. So far, so good on that one.
You got Westworld coming up. Was it Soon?
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night? Okay.
I think
Yeah.
I'll check my DVR, see what's queued up.
Expanse is already out. 2
Yeah, I need-
episodes.
Need to watch that. It's supposed to be DVRing it, but it isn't. I got to find out why.
Okay. Well, maybe they did some online release and it's not even premiered yet. I'm not sure, but I already got 2 episodes from Amazon, so
Okay. Would you buy those?
yeah, I just bought the season,
Oh, okay.
and then I'll just fork it to me when they're.
So pretty good so far.
Yeah, it's but it seems like they're like I thought they were gonna lead right into Abaddon's Gate, but this just seems like the last half of Caliban's War I forgot about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I remember there was like a big battle at the end of Caliban's War where fucking what's his name? Jim.
Yeah.
What's his last name?
Jim.
Is it Jim? Is his first name even Jim? God damn it. Now I just immediately forgot everyone's character. James Holden, that's his name.
Yeah.
Where there's like they go down to that one base on the kind of like the hidden base on the planet, and then like Mars and UN fighters are fighting up in space, and then like they fire proto-molecule missiles at them, and the ships get infected, and then Holden has to go onto the ship to get some shit. Like I remember that at the end of the book, but like I basically don't remember. So it looks like they're doing that bit. And they did get Bobby and Avasarala in the speed ship, the race ship.
Oh, okay.
Remember that
The
part?
cutter.
Yeah, I remember that part in the book where they're talking about like her face is just pushed all the way back when she's like talking. They're like, "What the
Yeah.
fuck's going on?" It's like,
Yeah, but Sorrel looks like 30 years younger. Face is all pinned back. Yeah. I don't know if in the books, didn't they say she'd never been in space until then?
I don't know about that, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember. I knew it was.
Because I mean, well, in the books, like that's the first time we're ever introduced to her. So, is the first episode is, even though like a lot of serious shit's going on, it was like strangely a funny episode. Like genuinely, like they're trying to make you laugh, not like bad laugh. No, it was like weird. There's like this part where Holden, what's that guy's name? Proximity Mong or Ming?
Prajadik or
Prodigy?
Prajadik.
Plant
I don't
guy.
know. Yeah.
So they're talking to the plant guy, and this is after like they destroyed that monster who they thought might be his daughter.
Yeah.
So like Holden's like putting all this shit together about like how we could follow the conspiracy. And he looks at the plant guy. He's like, "We didn't give a shit about your daughter, but I'm gonna help you out." And it was just kind of weirdly funny. He just comes out of nowhere and tells a guy, "Oh, we didn't give a shit about your daughter."
Yeah, expansisms. There's weird moments like that all throughout the series.
But yeah, the episode was directed by Breck Eichner.
Okay. Why have I heard that?
Or yeah, he's the son of Breck Eisner. He's the son of Michael Eisner, who used to run or maybe still runs Disney.
Okay.
He directed Sahara and
The Dirk Pitt one with
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, okay. That was a big success, right?
And he also did I remember he like created or was integral to the I-Man TV show that I was talking about like a few episodes ago. It's one of those weird sci-fi shows that seemingly disappeared and has not shown up anywhere ever since.
Yeah, remember that one.
And what else comes out on Netflix? Some other shows come out soon. Oh well. And then, have you caught Barry at all?
No, I'm probably going to do that tomorrow.
Okay.
I had guys out looking at the windows and stuff. It's just, like, because Friday's my day for that, and when I got shit going on every Friday.
Yeah, I've been basically just listening to a lot of Giant Bomb stuff, so I haven't been watching anything else that would be interesting to talk about. Explaining Giant Bomb things is impossible. It's like, these guys played a video game and made a funny reference. It's like, that sounds terrible. I know.
There was something on Netflix I saw. There's a reason I'm looking at this right now, because when I looked at oh, did you ever watch that thing on Netflix? What's it called? The Rain.
No, what's that?
Let me look that up. That's the one that's from Sweden or whatever. I could be getting it wrong. Nope, it's called The Rain. When's it coming out? Or did it come out already?
I remember there was a weird German one that was called like something dark, and it got like a second season.
Yeah, that's the one. Some of my people on Facebook are like, "You should watch this. You should love it." Oh, it's Danish, and it's May 4th. What is this month? This is May, right?
It's April.
April. So okay, The Rain's not out yet. But yeah, it's basically a virus wipes out all of humanity, and it's apparently it falls in the rain, whatever kills people, and there's like these kids left.
Huh.
City, and supposedly it's a Danish TV show, so supposedly it's like really dark and fucked up, and there was a lot of buzz about it, and then some people screened it and they're like, wow, this is just depressing. So I don't know. But that's not out yet. I don't know. I saw something else, but I'm not gonna sit here and surf the internet because that's lame. That's not good podcasting.
I found out that new A Quiet Place movie was written by people from the University of Iowa.
Oh, really? That doesn't surprise me.
Thought that was kind of interesting. They're interviewing them, and they're talking about there's like a thing called like Find a Hawk or whatever, where you can go wherever you're going to look for a job or wherever you are, you can find other people who are alums of the University of Iowa. And so they were in Hollywood, and they were looking up Find a Hawk, and like they just called up Nicholas Meyer, I think that's his name, the guy who did the Star Trek Wrath of Khan and shit like that.
Okay, yeah.
And he just had him over for lunch. They just had a talk, and he gave him advice. I was like, well, that's fucking cool.
That is cool. That's an interesting interesting app.
I mean, they have stuff like that. Like if you're look for it, a lot of Big Ten stuff, because Big Ten is like huge fucking schools.
Yeah.
Like Michigan's like one of the largest colleges in the world.
I know, it's slowly creeping out and taking everything over here.
But nobody stays there.
No.
So everyone gets jobs on the coast, and you can find a lot of like Big Ten sports bars like in every major city. So if you want your Hawkeye sports bar, there's one in Los Angeles. You can go there and watch Hawkeye games and shit like that. It's fucking weird.
That's crazy. Well, yeah.
Because there's enough of an audience that demands that to like support a bar, and multiple ones in this. Like there's like 3 Hawkeye bars in Los Angeles or some shit.
And God knows real estate's cheap in Los Angeles, so they must be doing good business.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, middle part of this country's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, until the earthquakes and global warming, then we're not going to be so dead. There's like no place to live on the coasts. Well, we can only hope.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much that script was written either. I guess you have to write all the movements and stuff like that. Scene direction.
I don't know. I've heard good things about it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've heard a little too good things too many good things about it, and then some people seem to get real. It's like, yeah, it's fine. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really too much into horror movies, but I guess it seemed like an interesting premise. Although
Yeah.
I think other things have done that before, but I think they just care. Apparently, it's just a cool 90 minutes. Like, get in, get out.
Oh, it's only 90 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of similar to like those isolation films, like what was that one I watched where everyone thought it was cool and then they hated it? Had a really dark ending. Oh, It Comes at Night. That was the
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember the Red Letter Media guys were talking about that, but they were disappointed because there really isn't actually like any kind of monster in that movie at all.
just people are just fucking monsters and fear and the things. It's a good. How would you? I enjoyed it, but I didn't have unrealistic expectations. Anything amazing was going to happen, so I wasn't disappointed. But it's a good like isolation movie where it's just like, oh, you can see how people just psychologically deconstruct under this kind of pressure, and just sit around in this dark, weirdly lit house and just get more and more paranoid. So yeah, it seemed like to be in the vein of something like that, but a little actually delivered on its promise. But yeah. So check it out. It's on Prime. You don't have to pay anything to watch it. Just 2 hours of your life. 2 precious hours.
And the
So
crying.
Yes. So we watched a movie. Watched a movie this week. The 1974 Night Porter, which is an Italian movie shot in English. With
Well, yeah, shot. Some I think the main actors are actually using their voices, but other people are obviously dubbed, and they just phonetically spoke English and were dubbed in later.
Yeah, that's why I said it's shot in English. I wasn't sure how many of these people were.
Well, there was weird audio because at points it seemed like even the main actor was like, did they dub him too? But I think the audio is just kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I lost my place here. Yeah, that was an interesting. It was a weird movie. It wasn't what I expected.
Okay, stop. Tell me what you were expecting.
Well, without doing any research, I knew it was a movie about concentration camp survivors and a secret Nazi in a hotel that managed a hotel. And I figured, oh, this was going to be, because I didn't read anything about it. I figured this is going to be, and sometimes I don't with these movies because I don't want to know what happens. So I was like, oh, it's going to be like, oh, she's going to find him and get revenge for what he did to her in the concentration camp. And then there's like this whole Boys from Brazil subgroup that's trying to protect each other. All the Nazis are trying to protect each other, including a guy who wore a monocle that looked obviously like a Nazi. Who rocks a monocle anymore? I mean, and this was set in the 50s, so maybe it was still a thing. Maybe the monocle should come back. But anyway.
We also had like a giant scar on his face. I was like, I think the scar holds his monocle in.
Yeah, something keeps that thing in place. But I thought this was going to be one of those movies. And it started off that way. And then it took a turn. And it became basically reminded me of like if Rob Zombie directed Nazi porn without the demons and shit, but just with people, characters changing in irrational ways and doing weird things and having stuff. It's like, how did they film this? How do these people keep from laughing or crying? A lot of sex scenes, weird sex scenes and nudity and stuff like that, which was fine. But it just got weird. It became Nazi porn at some point, and
Well,
I mean, not full on, porn.
There's sex and lots of Nazi imagery.
Yeah, lots of Nazi imagery, lots of sex, and just kind of it's sort of
But also not that charged of a movie. Like it's actually
no, it
pretty
was a low key movie. Yeah, for all the shooting and violence and stuff that does occur or is even implied. Uh, yeah, it's something I can say I watched it and it's like I don't regret it, but it still is like this is not what I expected. I definitely took something different away from this. This is kind of a weird movie, kind of a weird style of movie too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a low key depressed, Nazi sex movie.
Yeah, I forgot a lot of things about this movie because I used to have this on Criterion Collection, like the physical copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see the cover for that and you're like, what the fuck is this movie?
Yeah.
Because the cover is her half naked. She has her elbows spread out, covering her breasts with her hands, and she has pants with suspenders and then a Nazi hat. Like what the and like leather hands, like leather stuff on her hands too.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck is this movie?
Yeah, and I don't know what the themes. I don't know what I was supposed to get out of this movie. Because if I thought, because like I said initially, I thought, oh, this is going to be a retribution thing against this Nazi guy. And then what did I mean, I watched it and I was like, so are Nazis sexy? What? If you torture a young girl with sex and violence, does she fall in love with you? I was sort of confused as to what message I was supposed to get out of this.
Yeah, that's
Is that a style?
No, well, the thing is, I'm not that it's more like a drug thing, like a habit thing, a bad habit. It's not that they're in love; it's that they like this kind of sex too much.
Yeah, there's no love or nurturing here.
I mean, he even says that he loves her sometimes, but like it's hard for you to believe that he means that in any rational way.
Yeah,
like, he might believe it or something. Yeah, it's especially
call her my little girl or
yeah.
It got creepy.
Yeah, well, I mean, every aspect of this is fucking creepy.
But it starts off so normal, and you look at it.
Yeah, like they're afraid of each other. It's like, it's like, oh, he's thinking of his past, the like Nuremberg trials, something like that. Like, and like that's what they have these little mock trials with his group. They want to make sure there's no evidence that ties back to him because they basically like, oh, we made sure everybody was dead. Nobody's gonna. There's the one Italian cook, but he cooks too good to kill him.
Yeah. And he gets killed anyway.
Yeah, Mac kills him. So like they're all hiding away, and then like when they spot each other, it's like, oh, it's like they both know something's wrong. He's gonna tell on her. He's gonna try to stop her from telling on her, and then like that's how it is for a little while. But then there's something seductive about their time in the concentration camp halts like all logic for them somehow.
Yeah,
because like Max doesn't really care to appease this board of his fellow Nazis, and she's just completely willing to throw away her current relationship to go get abused by this guy again.
Yeah, it's weird and unexpected and jarring, and again, I'm sometimes I overlook themes in movies if I'm entertained. But if I'm not like super engaged and entertained, I start thinking, what am I supposed to get out of this? Which was what I was left with this movie. So what was I supposed to get out of that? What's the message here?
Well, I think it's a bad relationship.
Yeah, it's troubled relationship.
And it doesn't end well.
It kind of ends like a death camp.
But I think the super weird thing about because how you thought like how this would go is that she would be the hero who like redeems herself, but it's like Max is really the protagonist, which is there's nothing likable about him other than he admits to he's ashamed of his past deeds, but not enough to turn himself in.
Yeah. I acknowledge that they're wrong, and then it just stops. It's like, what do you want to do about that? Oh, nothing. Just live in the darkness because the light hurts me, and it's like, okay.
Well, there's that time when they're on the roof talking to each other, and like he throws out the Hitler salute, and they all like follow suit, and then he just kind of like turns away, like disgusted, like you're just a bunch of fucking sheep.
That one guy starts rattling about our time is coming, the Reich will come again, and yeah, that was.
A few people keep asking him if he's a communist.
Oh yeah, like that's a big thing. Have you become a communist? It's like, yeah, that's the worst thing that could happen. Well, I mean, at that time maybe it was more scary.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because we look at that stuff now and we're like, all those ideologies are dead.
This takes place in Vienna, Austria. So.
Oh, Vienna. Okay, yeah, I knew it was in the 50s. What I think Italy? Oh, because it's an Italian movie. Okay,
yeah, it's an Italian movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a weird movie.
Yeah.
I guess something you should watch. I don't know.
I mean, you're not gonna watch another movie like it.
That's true. You will never see that. Spielberg goes nuts.
They're a really interesting performance, like especially with the main actress. Like that is a fucking hard role to pull off, and she's kind of weirdly seductive about being a victim. That's just fucking terrifying.
Yeah, there's some gross. This movie gets real European. There's some gross sex undertones to this movie, including illusions of pedophile, daddy issues, abuse. It's just like all the sick things, stuff that like we joke about. Deadly serious in this movie.
The only thing I can't remember. Did she know who the person was when he gave her the head in the box? Was that like someone she didn't like? Because I always thought like that her family was there and like he just gave her dead father's head or something like that. But the concentration camp didn't really seem to be like, wasn't necessarily like a Jewish concentration camp because they said she was American at some point.
And she's an American.
And then when they have that lineup, it's like all different faiths and different people from different countries. So it's like it's not exactly a Jewish concentration camp, but
yeah, I think generically a bad place where Nazis did bad things, not specifically like Buchenwald or something, but just a place where bad shit went on. I thought the head was somebody she befriended.
Oh, okay.
But that was those cross back and forth scenes got more confusing as the movie went on because the main narratives take such a fucked up arc. It's like, okay, well maybe this is going to explain it. No, it's just tits and ice and heads and boxes. It's like we're getting no answers from either the past or the present. And it's a weird movie to watch with your family around. So people come in the room, you're always hitting pause, like, "What are you watching?" It's
Why is she naked? Why is he shooting at her? Why is she smiling? I'm like, I don't know.
Why does he have a wound? Why is she aroused by that? What the fuck are you watching? Are you a communist?
2 movies in a row directed by women, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was what really amazed me about this movie. It's like, oh, it's directed by a woman.
If a man directed this, you would never hear about this movie ever again.
No, you'd be a fucking... He'd be Me Too'd to oblivion. Yeah, I did find that weird that a woman directed. I don't know much about Italian filmmaking, so I don't know what her role in this was. Or I don't know. Did this really stand up? Was this a successful movie?
I actually don't know about that. Because it seems like if you look at the Internet Movie Database, the tagline from the movie is like the most controversial movie you'll ever see. So it must have been a curiosity rather than like a success. But
yeah, the 70s were a weird time in films because if you watch movies like big ones, like The French Connection or something, it's like, oh, those are violent movies by today's standards, and pretty racist too. So.
I'd seen this movie before, but I completely forgot about Ballet Nazi.
Yeah, Ballet Nazi.
That's a good 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, the first time I saw that, where this guy was just dancing around and with all these Nazis, guys in just like full SS regalia. It's like I thought he was going to be shot or something. It's like, what happens to this guy? Are they just doing this to? And they just sit there stone faced and just stare at him. Watch this beautiful man dance. It's like, what's going on? And what does it mean? And nope, no, it just.
Well, yeah. At first, I thought it was like this guy's like performing for his freedom. Like in this group,
Yeah.
like if you're good at something, you get to live. But no, he was a Nazi.
He's one of them doing weird shit, and it was a very David Bowie time, I think, in the early '70s. I don't know what that. I don't. I don't understand. I'm not smart enough or not weird enough to understand what that was supposed to mean. Found the scene oddly engaging because I like things where people are doing something bizarre and everyone else is being stoic. I've always enjoyed that. Like, that's cool. Just take it all in. Just keep staring straight ahead. Oh. So yeah, it was well composed but weird. And later weird too when he's like holding the light for the guy.
Well, that was the first one when he holds the light.
Yeah.
And then when it's a
Yeah.
flashback. And then he has to give him his drugs.
Yep. Was he giving him morphine?
Something. I imagine.
Drugs.
Had injected in his ass, and I was like, is this some euphemism for gay sex? Because obviously that guy's gay.
Yeah, I thought they were going to have some kind of relationship or something, but apparently only women he's tortured.
That's the only way I can get it up anymore.
Yeah, that's how it happens. Yeah, so it's a strange movie. It's everything we've watched so far. I can see like, oh yeah, I can see getting this out of it.
This was made for an audience.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where I get nothing from this but humorous quips, and I feel like I need to take a shower after I watch it. Even though I didn't beat off or anything while I was playing, I still feel like weird about watching it. And it's not even like the worst, most horrifying thing I've seen. It's just so fucking weird. And it just takes a turn on you.
It's an emotional horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about real horror. Like there's nothing magical happened in this. It's like, oh, that's not real. Yeah. All this shit's real. I mean, people are this depraved, especially in Germany. I mean, Germany and, the death camp times, what I mean. I'm sure Germany now is a great place.
Oh, they're depraved in fun ways now.
Yeah, it's not. They're sanctimonious about it. It's like, oh, at least we're not Americans. It's like, yeah, you're not. But let's roll back the clock about 75 years.
At least we're not Americans. Do you have any shit porn for me?
Yeah. I hate the gross fat Americans. Will you poop on my chest? Just a little poop. A little bit.
I did get to use some of my, my knowledge of German in some things. So.
You about shit porn?
No, just in this movie, like you see some things written in German and shit like that. So.
Oh, and it made sense.
Well, it's like the hotel he works at is called Hotel zur Oper, which means hotel to the opera. Because hotel obviously means hotel. Zur is a combination of zoo and der. Zoo means two, and der is basically the article for Oper, which is opera.
Oh, well, it made sense because she was. They had an extended opera scene in this movie too.
Yeah, when they first see, well, I guess the weird staring scene.
Yes, just a lot of that back and forth. Yeah, that was.
It was that first one where he looks at her, and then she kind of looks back, and they come back to her, and then they kind of focus off to her husband conducting the opera.
Yeah, and her husband seems really emotionally what's wrong? Have a drink. Snap out of it. What are you doing? Stupid woman. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck's this guy's problem? No wonder she wants to have Nazi death sex with this guy. Her husband's just vacant.
It's also a weird turn at the end where they decide I'm gonna quit my job and we're gonna hold up in my room until they go away, and then they just basically start starving to death because they don't have any food and they don't want to leave the house.
Yeah, that's a weird. And then everyone turns against this guy, his neighbor, the old mistress at the hotel, or not the rich old baroness or whatever.
Yeah.
And even the hotel boy was the house prostitute or whatever for this older lady. Like he has no friends in the end. He never did. Because he's a Nazi. Nobody likes those guys.
Well, it was like the weird thing where it's like at the end. Well, yeah, everything would be predicated by the weird thing. When he decides, like, all right, we're just gonna leave and they're gonna kill us, and he puts on his Nazi uniform. It's like I'm not sure like what I'm supposed to read out of that. Like I guess he's like accepting his shame for once. Like they're gonna find him dead and wonder why he's dressed like a Nazi, and then find out all his horrible past.
Yeah, he kept the uniform in his closet or whatever that thing is. The lady found it. It's pretty ballsy to keep your uniform, but
Well, it's Austria, you know. That's why people fled down there.
oh yeah, because that stuff's all legal there. So I did like when the guy shot at him with a handgun with a silencer on it from shooting up into like a third story from a car, and he hit the guy in the hand. I was thinking, wow, what a shot! Holy shit, that's hard to do. But yeah, this is a weird movie. I'm not sure if I'm going to give this a recommend. I guess if you got time and no one's around, don't watch it. The kids are in the room.
Yeah, I asked you about the last time. I was like, hey, was anybody around? You watched The Lure and you had to explain what the fuck you were watching, but no, this is the one they locked in on.
This is the one. Yeah, The Lure I could...
you could explain that way. It's a horror movie. It's a musical.
Polish horror movie, like 80s glam rock horror movie. It's really weird. This one, it's like, what do you say? He's a Nazi in a hotel, and it's like, well, why is she climbing on top of him, screwing him? I don't know. It's not what I thought it was going to be.
Oh, because she cut him with glass.
Yeah, she wounded him.
That makes sense. Okay.
As long as we're tagged in on this. Yeah, this was an odd duck. For an odd movie run we're doing, this is a weird one.
Yeah, this is after Firewalk with Me, The Lure, and you're called Night Porter, the weird one.
This is the one that makes it left me feeling.
Or is this the most uncomfortable one?
The most uncomfortable one. Because Firewalk with Me was fun. The Lure was weird and fun, but this just left me feeling dead inside. Like, what the fuck? I'm glad these people got shot. They needed to die. This was I didn't like anyone in this movie.
Yeah.
All it made me want to do was bring back the monocle, and it's like all these people are terrible, and they're
because like even with her, you don't like her at the end because you feel like she's not defending herself at all. She should be defending herself, but like whatever this weird lust she has for their relationship, like that's the role she plays.
Yeah, that's her job. Lust girl. All right, well, it's midnight here. Well, I think it's time for bed.
All right.
So this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin. Goodbye, America.